Joined now by Ty Howle, tight ends coach, co-offensive coordinator here at Pro Day. An exciting day as you try and send on about a dozen guys into the NFL, including a man who needs no introduction, Tyler Warren. It's been so fun to talk about him this season, coming back and the impact he's had on the program. What's it like to complete this process as you try and help him on into the NFL?
It's been great because, fortunately I've been here for Tyler's kind of whole process from his freshman year when he redshirted, and then obviously the amazing season he had this year. So to complete the process and see him move on to the highest level of football has been great. He's done a great job in his preparation throughout his career, but especially for this part of his journey. And so it's been special for me and my family. My two boys, they look up to him like he's Superman. So my wife and boys are here today because they wanted to see him in this part of his process. So I've really enjoyed it. He's a great young man, great family. He's been a joy to coach.
I've been telling this story to everyone who will listen, but it was at Pro Day last year when Theo Johnson said, Tyler Warren will be the best tight end in the country, just wait. Mm-hmm. At the time, Tyler was getting limited reps because obviously they were splitting time. Why was there so much confidence in this guy? He came in, he switched positions, but just such a quiet leader, and everyone knew this is what he would turn into.
I think those guys in the building, Theo and Brenton and Pat, they've seen it for years, his flashes of greatness. And, at Penn State, we've been really fortunate to have a run of really good players who have worked themselves into developing into being great tight ends, from Mike Gesicki and even older Jesse James, but Brenton Strange, Pat Freiermuth, Theo, and then Tyler. And so when you're blessed with a room like that, naturally you split reps and all those things. And but those guys had seen it. We had seen it as coaches, so it gave us great confidence there. And then how Tyler approaches everything from a day-to-day standpoint. I mean, he's 20 minutes early to meetings. He's getting extra work, on the field after by himself. I mean, just his approach, you had confidence in him without maybe seeing the production from, 2 or 3 years. We had seen it in practice and felt his presence in the building.
So, Ty, I want to kind of go into the foundations of your coaching, and I'm going to give some preface here. So Ty was my center my freshman year, so I obviously have a tremendous amount of respect for this guy. Saved me, taught me how to mic an ID in mid-zone, the whole nine. But he also comes from a coaching background. Your father, 30-plus year head football coach in North Carolina. So he's a very smart football guy. He's not just an O-line meathead. I've thought about this a lot of ways, and I think since Mike Gesicki, and I can say this because I love him, you've had a run of really complete tight ends. And I think Tyler Warren's a perfect example of this, right? Like, this kid doesn't even have to work out at the combine. He doesn't have to work out at his pro day because of the tape that he put on and how he fits to that system. There's no one thing that he does that separates him in the sense of, like, that's the only thing he can do in this league. That he can block, he can play special teams, he can catch the football, he can be a dynamic route runner. Talk about, and I think you've had several guys who are like that. Talk about the foundational coaching from your perspective of the position, and I think your unique background that makes it such a difference maker, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say that I got yelled at for helping you make the mic point sometimes. But,
you handed it off to me eventually.
Yeah, I got in trouble for that, but that's all right.
Let the kid figure it out.
That's right. But, from my belief with coaching tight ends is we got to be three-tooled players. And because you're seeing, obviously in the NFL and in college football, the more versatility you bring with that group specifically, the more you can do. And that's kind of our mantra, is like the more we can do to help our offense win. And everybody wants to catch balls. Everybody wants to score touchdowns and all that. But it's really the gritty, dirty work that I think makes guys complete.
Yep.
And so with my background with O-line, like that's what I love.
The thankless.
And like that's what I love to teach them. And because it's a lot easier during the summer to go out and do them Pascal.
Yeah.
It's 7-on-7. Those guys can go out there and run it themselves. A lot harder to go run inside run, and without the pads and all that stuff. So we spend a lot of time on their blocking technique in the off season and during the season. because you can get the pass foundations from 7-on-7 and those things. It's a little bit easier. So that's been a big focus of ours. And then also, I've told the guys, like, the better blocker you are, the better matchups you get. Because ultimately, football is a matchup game. You can't just put a nickel on one of our guys because we got really good backs, we got really good O-line, we can run the football. So how can we maximize our matchups? A lot of it is the foundation of blocking.
Yep.
We get to go against Sams and safeties and those things because of how good of blockers we are. And so we take a lot of pride in that in the room. Everyone reinforces. It's become kind of the standard of our room. Like, you look at really the past couple guys that have came out, Brenton and Theo, and they've all been exceptional blockers.
Yep.
And I think it starts there from an overall tight end position. And so we place a lot of emphasis on that.
I think there's a lot of people who are looking at this room knowing that you've put so many guys into the NFL, a ton of confidence in whoever steps in there. But when you lose a guy like Tyler Warren in your program, who are the guys that are stepping up in that room right now that you're excited about their futures? Because we know there's a number of them who flashed, especially at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think obviously you got Khalil Dinkins, who, to Hack's point, like, he did a lot of the dirty work last year that allowed Tyler to do some of the things he did. He's an exceptional player, and I'm really excited about his development from winter workouts, and obviously we're through 2 spring practices. He's doing a great job. Luke Reynolds, Andrew Rapplier, Joey Schlaffer, and then our young guys, like, they're coming along. I think the most fun thing for me has been being year 2 in the system, the flexibility our tight end room can give our offense, and playing different positions and doing different jobs ultimately will help our offense first in Penn State, because that's the most important, will also help their futures. And so that's what we preach, man, the more versatile and things that we can do. And I say Penn State special teams too. Like, our guys, the body type, they should be on special teams, because at the next level, as Hack knows, tight ends are going to play on special teams. It's 53-man roster. Yep. Everybody's got to pull their weight. And so I think, those guys being accountable to each other, it's always about the room, and those guys do a great job coaching each other, cheering each other on, because they understand, like, it's hard for a guy to go out and play 80 plays in one game and do all the different jobs. Like, we need each other. And so I'm excited about all the guys in the room, and obviously some of those older guys they got some experience last year to build on, and but none of them have to be Tyler Warren. Like, Tyler Warren didn't have to be Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson didn't have to be Brendan Strange. You got to be the best version of yourself, and ultimately accentuate on the things you do well, and the things that maybe you need to work on, focus on that process. And so that's been a big message for us.
So talk a little bit about that development. It's one thing I talked with Jason Kabinda about last week, kind of the mindset heading into spring ball, from a former player's perspective and trying to get inside the mind's eye of a coach's perspective. I think the offense is obviously uniquely positioned to start building, and I think it's been a long time that Penn State's been in that situation where they've had at least a year where they feel really good about offense, to be able to now say this spring ball is going to be really fun. We get to get creative. We get to find the guys that, to your point, maybe those hidden gems who could potentially create a mismatch for us in certain situations and certain personnel groupings. Talk just about the development and the mindset of this offense heading into year 2 under Coach K with a great year under the belt.
Yeah, I think it's our mindset as coaches has been to, hey, let's get better at things maybe we didn't do well last year, or maybe there's a new little wrinkle we want to incorporate. Let's maximize on that, and then let's find ways to gain an edge on the things maybe on paper we did do well, but we can do better. Yeah, and it's like I had a message to the tight end room yesterday. Like, look, going out and catching 20 balls in a practice is great, but like, if you need to work on pass protection, I, as the coach, need to put you in that situation for you to get those reps and get better at it. And that's the rep that you should enjoy the most, because it's something that you can get better at. And we can all get better at every area, but maybe it's something that was a negative that, hey man, if you want to help us more and you want to help the tight end room more and be more versatile, this is the area that you got to continue to grow and improve.
And that's a lot easier to do when you're not trying to teach the foundations of the offense, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's why I looked at it as like, I'm really excited. We're obviously not going to see much in the spring game, but I'm really excited for where you guys are heading into and tracking into training camp, because you're not in that position of like, these guys got to know what the heck they're doing right now, as opposed to these guys know what they're doing. The foundation's built. Now I get to kind of frame out the kitchen, and I get to pick the appliances. And I think the creative minds like yourself and Coach K and Trace coming in the building, like that's where I think this thing's going to be really tooled to have, and the talent you have coming back. I don't want to forget about that. It is ultimately about the Jimmies and Joes. Like, it's going to be really interesting to watch that. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and I think, like, you think back to your freshman year and when I was young playing football, like I looked at the draw sheet and I needed to know the lines on the paper. You know, whatever this concept was, I needed to know what that line was, where they were going to be, right? Well, now you can put life behind the lines.
Yes.
Once you know what what you're calling this line and that line, and you know, think about when you were young. You know, obviously, like, okay, I need to know what Wajuk was. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got to know Haas Wajuk. Yeah. Well, now I need to know how Allen runs Haas Wajuk.
Yes.
You know, and so that's the evolution of being in the same system.
And subsequently, what's funny about that is I benefited from you guys being in year 2, coming off a great year, because I was the young guy. And that's another thing that you mentioned, the younger guys coming in, they're going to benefit from the older guys because there's a level of comfortability and there's an escalation process to catching up to speed. They're at a different point than you, and if you're talented enough, you're subsequently going to be able to catch up faster and be an asset earlier.
Absolutely. Like, that's the thing I talk about in recruiting and with our guys. Like, Brenton Strange was a better player because he was in the room with Pat Fryermuth.
Yes.
And the other guys he was competing with. But he was in there with an older guy who has done it at a high level and was going to go on and do it at the highest level. Tyler Warren was a better player because Brenton Strange was in the room. And it just goes on. And the faster you can use those as positives and strengths, the better you're going to be.
No doubt.
So.
No doubt.
Well, Ty Howle, we could talk to you all day, but we appreciate the time here.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it.